There are nights that I still replay in my head, even when I don't want to. Not loud, dramatic nights. The quiet ones that felt normal right up until they didn't. The ones where you tell yourself everything's fine because it has to be. I thought that night was going to be like any other, familiar faces, old stories, nothing to be afraid of. But looking back now, that's where it all started to feel wrong, and I didn't see it coming. I remember pulling up outside the community center, and for a second just sitting there in the car. The building hadn't changed at all. Same chipped paint near the entrance, same uneven steps I used to trip over in middle school. The air smelled like summer, warm, heavy, like it always did in that town after dark. I don't know if I was excited or just trying to feel excited. It had been so long since I'd seen any of them, and I guess I thought maybe it would feel like going home for a night. When I finally went inside, it was loud in that way reunions always are, people laughing too hard, music just a little too high, chairs scraping across the floor, and for a while I let myself get pulled into it. I smiled at people I hadn't thought about in years, tried to act like it was all easy. But then I spotted him, and it was like the noise dulled all at once. I don't know why I thought he wouldn't come, maybe because part of me wanted to believe I'd never have to see him again. The second he walked in, the room felt smaller, tighter, like there wasn't anywhere to stand where I wouldn't be in his way. My heart dropped, but I tried to keep my face still, like maybe if I stayed calm nothing would happen. Even now, I wonder why I didn't just leave right then. Maybe it's because I didn't want him to think I was scared, or maybe I didn't want to admit it to myself. But whatever the reason, I stayed, and I felt that cold dread settle in, like I knew on some level the night wasn't going to go how I'd hoped. I kept telling myself to be polite, like somehow that would make it easier. Like if I smiled, if I kept my voice light, I could slip past it without stirring anything up. It's strange how we do that, like we owe it to people not to make a scene, even when they're the reason we're afraid. I remember thinking, just stay calm, it'll be fine. But I felt his eyes on me before he even crossed the room, and my stomach clenched so tight, I thought I might be sick. When he reached me, it happened so fast I didn't have time to step away. His hand wrapped around my wrist, firm, like he was claiming something, like I didn't have a choice. And just like that, it was senior year again. The hallway outside the gym, or behind the bleachers after practice, those moments I tried so hard to forget. My heart sank, and it felt like the air got sucked out of the room. I hated that he still had that effect on me. I hated that my body remembered even when my mind tried to act like I was over it. I froze, just for a second, but long enough to hate myself for it. Long enough to feel that smallness, that panic, come rushing back. The noise of the reunion seemed far away. I could hear people laughing, glasses clinking, but it didn't touch me. All I could feel was his grip, that awful pressure on my skin. Even now, I can feel it if I think about it too long. I can feel the weight of it, like a mark that didn't fade, no matter how much I wanted it to. I didn't even want to pick up the phone. It was late, that kind of late where everything outside feels heavier, quieter, like the world's holding its breath. But when it rang, I couldn't ignore it. I think part of me hoped it would be someone normal, something harmless, something that would break the tension I'd been feeling since I left the reunion. I didn't check the number first, I just answered. The silence hit first. Not the kind of silence where the call drops or someone hangs up too soon. This was different. It was the kind where you know someone's there, you can feel it. My heart started racing before I heard anything else. And then it came, slow, steady breathing. Not rushed, not shaky, like whoever it was had all the time in the world. Like they just wanted me to listen, to know they were on the other end. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen, phone pressed to my ear. I wanted to hang up, but I also needed to be sure, needed to hear more, like somehow that would tell me what to do. I told myself it was a prank. That's what people say, right? Kids messing around, or some wrong number. But deep down I knew it wasn't random. That night I didn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every hum of the fridge or tick of the pipes, it all felt louder. Like the dark had ears. Like I was waiting for the phone to ring again. I kept thinking, if I hear it again, what will I do? But the call didn't come back. And somehow that was worse. It was late when Marissa dropped me off. The kind of late where the streetlights hum just a little louder, and even the breeze feels heavier somehow. I remember standing there on my porch, fumbling for my keys when I noticed it. That SUV, dark and slow, just easing its way down the block. I don't know why I noticed it. Maybe because Marissa's taillights had just disappeared around the corner, and suddenly I felt alone. Or maybe because it moved just a little too carefully, like whoever was inside didn't want to be noticed but also didn't want to leave. It wasn't like we lived on some busy street. Nobody really drove through here at that hour, unless they lived there. That's what made it stand out. That slow roll past my house, headlights sweeping across my front steps. That pause that might not have even been real, but felt long enough for my breath to hitch. My gut told me something was off, but I kept trying to reason with myself. People get lost, people turn around. Maybe it wasn't even slowing down, maybe I just imagined it. I stayed on the porch too long, watching the dark shape fade down the street. The air felt too still after it was gone, like everything was holding its breath again. I kept thinking it might loop back around, maybe pass by one more time, maybe stop. I didn't want to go inside, not right away. I felt like if I turned my back, I'd miss something, or worse, I'd give whoever it was the chance to stop without me seeing. Even now I can picture those headlights, that slow crawl, and I still wonder if they were looking for me. I don't know why I opened it. When I saw his name pop up in my inbox that morning, my stomach turned. I stared at it for what felt like forever, telling myself to just delete it, to block him without a second thought, but I couldn't look away. It felt like if I didn't read it, I'd be missing something important, some piece of the puzzle that might help me make sense of all this, or at least confirm what I already feared. And when I did finally open it, I knew I'd made a mistake. The words were heavy, like they were written just to tangle me up, to pull me in whether I wanted it or not. All that fake regret, all those half apologies that weren't really apologies at all, just ways to shift the guilt onto me, to make me feel like I owed him some kind of reply, like I had to let him explain, let him in, just a little. I could almost hear his voice in my head as I read it, that same tone he always used when he wanted something. I blocked him right after. My hands were shaking when I did it, like somehow that tiny action would make him angrier, or make it worse. And even after, I didn't feel safer. I just felt exposed, like I'd handed him proof that he could still get to me whenever he wanted, that no matter how much time had passed, or how far I thought I'd come, all it took was one message to drag me right back into it, and that scared me more than anything else. It started so suddenly. I had been drifting in and out of sleep, the kind where your mind won't let go of the day, when the first ring jolted me upright. The sound echoed through the apartment, loud in the quiet, too loud. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone had the wrong address, but it kept going. The doorbell again, and again, like whoever was out there wanted to test me, wanted to see how long I could take it before I'd give in. I sat there frozen, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't move, didn't even breathe at first, just listened. The rings turned to pounding, fists, or maybe something harder, slamming against the door, shaking it in its frame. It wasn't random. It wasn't the way someone knocks when they're desperate for help. This was deliberate, slow, angry, daring me to come to the door, daring me to see who it was. I kept thinking, don't look, don't move, don't let them know you're here. The apartment felt smaller, like the walls were pressing in on me with every hit. I tried to count between the sounds, tried to measure it, as if that would somehow help me stay calm. But the seconds stretched too long, and I lost track. I don't know how long it lasted, only that when it finally stopped, the silence felt just as loud. I sat there for what felt like hours after, afraid to move, afraid it wasn't over. And in the dark, all I could hear was the sound of my own breath, like I was still waiting for the next hit. I didn't want to do it. I kept telling myself I could handle it, that if I just stayed alert, stayed careful, it would stop, that I didn't need to pull anyone else into it, didn't need to say out loud what I'd been trying to ignore. Asking for help, felt like failing, like admitting that I wasn't as strong as I thought I was, or as strong as I wanted to be. But after that night with the doorbell, the pounding, I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't keep sitting in that apartment, waiting for the next sound, the next message, the next sign that he wasn't going to go away. It was Marissa who said something first. I think she saw it in my face the next day, how worn out I looked, how little I'd slept. I didn't argue when she offered to call her uncle. I just nodded, like my body had given up before my mind could catch up. Her uncle made the call. He knew someone at the sheriff's office, someone who could step in without making it messier than it already was. Evan got his warning. I didn't have to hear it happen, but I imagined how it went. I imagined him acting surprised, like he didn't know what anyone was talking about, like he hadn't done anything wrong. I thought that would bring relief, that hearing it was handled, that knowing someone else had stepped in would make me feel safer. But mostly I just felt tired, worn thin, like I was waiting for him to find another way, waiting for the next time I'd feel that cold knot in my stomach. Because part of me knew this wasn't really over. Not yet. There are nights you try to forget, but they don't really let you. This one, I don't even talk about it most of the time, not because I've made peace with it, but because I'm not sure I ever understood what really happened. I keep telling myself it was just a weird night, a bad choice, a fluke. But sometimes when it's quiet, it creeps back in. The way the air felt, or the sound of my own footsteps, or that tight feeling in my chest that wouldn't go away. I guess I'm finally ready to tell it. I didn't want to go, even now, when I think back on it. I don't know what made me say yes. Maybe it was just easier than coming up with reasons or hearing my friends try to convince me that it would be fun. I remember staring at the invite on my phone, that generic-looking graphic with the date and time, and feeling my stomach twist in this way I couldn't explain. The idea of walking into that room, of seeing all those faces I hadn't thought about in years, it felt heavy. It's not like I hated everyone, but I didn't exactly miss them either. The thought of small talk, of pretending I cared about who married who or who had kids, just made me tired before I even got there. I kept telling myself it was just one night, a few hours at most, and then I could go back to my own little world. That's what I kept clinging to, that I was in control of when I left, how long I stayed, what I let in. Looking back, that's what gets me. How sure I was that I had the power to decide how that night would go. I remember the way the air felt that day, sticky and warm, like the city couldn't let go of summer even though it was already September. I remember the hum of traffic outside my window while I tried to pick out something to wear, feeling this low-level dread settle in my chest. And still, I went along with it. I said yes. I told myself I'd regret staying home more than I'd regret going. But sitting here now, I'm not so sure about that. It was louder than I thought it would be. I remember stepping into that hall and being hit by the music, the chatter, the clinking of glasses. All of it layered on top of each other like noise I couldn't quite separate. The lights were harsh in places and dim in others, like the room couldn't decide what kind of mood it wanted. I stood there for a second, scanning faces that looked familiar but blurred with time, and I felt that first wave of regret. I didn't want to be there. I knew it right then. When Dylan sat down next to me, it was almost like a break in the tension. He smiled like we were old friends, like we had some kind of bond I'd just forgotten. And for a moment, I let myself fall into the comfort of not questioning it. It felt easier than admitting I had no idea who he was, easier than calling attention to the fact that I was already out of place. I kept telling myself, maybe I just didn't remember, maybe he really was in that sea of faces. I'd stopped paying attention to senior year. He talked like we had inside jokes, like we'd shared memories, and I nodded along, feeling this weird mix of guilt and relief. I didn't want to look rude. I didn't want to make it awkward. But beneath that, under the polite smile I kept putting on, there was this voice, small at first, whispering that something felt wrong, and I hate that I didn't listen to it. I hate that I let myself believe what was easier. I don't know what I was expecting to see. I guess I thought checking his profile would reassure me, like I'd find something harmless that would quiet that uneasy feeling I'd been trying to ignore all night. But instead, the more I looked, the worse it felt. There was his name, clear as day, popping up under photos I hadn't thought about in years. Old vacation shots, random birthday posts, things buried so far back I'd forgotten they were even public. And the way he'd gone that deep, that fast, it made my stomach twist in this cold, hollow way. I scrolled through his profile, hoping something would click, some normal detail that would make it all make sense. But there was nothing. No photos, no posts, no tagged friends. Just a name and a blank space where a life should have been. It felt like looking at a mask, like whatever was behind it wasn't meant to be seen. I kept staring at the screen, my thumb hovering over his name, like maybe if I looked long enough I'd remember him, or at least convince myself this was fine. But it wasn't. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't quite catch my breath, but I kept brushing it off, telling myself I was overreacting. I didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing. I didn't want to seem paranoid or weird. But underneath that, I felt it, this certainty, quiet but steady, that I'd opened a door I couldn't close again. And even then, I think I knew that wasn't the last I'd hear from him. It started with the vibration of my phone in my hand, one buzz, then another, then so many I couldn't even keep up. I thought at first it was just my friends checking in, maybe drunk texting from across the room, or sending some dumb meme. But when I opened the messages, that's when it all shifted. The posts, the warnings, the frantic questions about who I'd been talking to, it was like everything I hadn't wanted to admit came crashing down at once. The pieces that didn't fit before suddenly locked together, and I felt this cold wave move through me. I remember my fingers shaking as I scrolled through the screenshots they sent, people I barely knew now posting about some guy lying to everyone, changing his story, creeping from group to group, and I felt sick. Sick that I'd sat there and listened, that I'd smiled and nodded, that I'd let my guard down. That shame hit so hard, not just because of what he'd done, but because of what I hadn't seen. I kept replaying our conversation in my head, trying to find the exact thing that should have tipped me off, the detail that would have let me catch it in time. And the worst part is, I still don't know where that moment was. I still can't find the part where it all went wrong. It's like looking for a crack in glass that you swear wasn't there a second ago. I keep telling myself I should have known better, but maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe that's what really scares me, that I didn't want to see it. I don't think I blinked the whole drive. I just kept watching the road, the lights ahead, waiting for something. Anything that would let me get out without it turning into something worse. Every block felt longer than the last, like time had started stretching, and I kept hearing my own heartbeat in my ears. When that red light finally hit, it felt like the world was giving me the tiniest opening. I didn't think about it, didn't plan it. I just grabbed the handle, threw the door open, and ran. It felt like running through molasses at first, like my legs weren't connected to the rest of me. The air felt too cold on my face, and my chest burned, but I didn't stop. I kept going until I saw the glow of a diner sign up ahead, and the parking lot full of people I didn't know, but who felt like the safest thing I could find. I didn't even look back. I didn't want to know if he was behind me, or if he'd even gotten out of the car. I just needed to put as much distance between us as I could, and even once I was standing there under those two bright lights, trying to catch my breath, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was close, that if I turned around I'd see him watching, waiting. I kept thinking about how fast everything had changed, how 1 second I was in the car, and the next I was running like my life depended on it. And maybe it did. Maybe it really did. I really thought it was done. After that night, after getting away, I kept telling myself it was over, that I'd been lucky, that I could just move on. But then came the knock. I remember hearing it and feeling that split-second panic, like my body already knew something was wrong before my mind caught up. I moved slow, my heart hammering, and when I looked through the peephole and saw my neighbor standing there instead of him, I don't know, it was like my relief came with its own kind of dread. My neighbor's face was tight, serious in a way that made my stomach twist. When he told me about the guy, about someone outside peering in my windows, asking for someone who didn't live there, I felt cold all over. He'd found me. Somehow, he'd found where I lived. And I kept standing there, frozen, hearing my neighbor's voice but not really processing it. Because all I could think about was how long. How long had he been out there before someone noticed, before someone stopped him? I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the building, every shadow outside the window felt like it could be him, waiting, watching. I kept replaying it in my head, trying to piece together how he'd figured it out, what I'd done, what I'd let slip, and more than anything, I kept thinking about what would have happened if my neighbor hadn't been there, if no one had said anything. That's the part that sticks with me the most. I didn't even think twice once my lease was up. I started boxing things up before I'd even found a new unit. I just knew I couldn't stay there. Not in that apartment, not with those windows he'd stood outside of. Moving felt like the only thing I could do, like if I changed the walls around me, I could somehow change the way I felt inside. I picked a place just across the complex. Nothing dramatic, nothing far, just enough that when I looked out the window, I didn't see the same view, didn't see the spot where he'd been, and for a little while that helped. The first night in the new place, I remember sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes, and feeling like I could finally exhale. No more watching the curtains, no more flinching at footsteps in the hall, but it didn't last. Even now, even after all this time, there are nights when everything's quiet and I feel it creeping back in. That tightness in my chest, that bracing for something I can't see but feel, like I'm waiting for the knock I know is coming. And maybe that's just how it is now. Maybe no amount of moving or changing locks or drawing blinds can really erase it. I tell myself I'm safe, that it's done, but the truth is, I don't think I believe that. Not completely. I think a part of me will always be waiting, always listening, always on edge, and I don't know if that part ever lets go. Some things you replay over and over. This one, I wish I could forget. I didn't even see it coming at the time. It felt so normal at first, like any other night where you say yes to something without thinking too hard. But looking back, I can't shake this feeling that it was the start of something I wasn't ready for, something I still don't understand. I don't know why I said yes. I've thought about that a lot since then. Maybe it was because Zoe had already made the effort. She came out with my friends that night, tried to laugh at their dumb jokes, tried to fit in. I felt like I owed her something, like saying yes was just the polite thing to do. And maybe I didn't want to seem like that guy, the one who overthinks everything, who always has some excuse. At the time it felt easy, just one of those things where you tell yourself, what's the harm? I didn't question it when she mentioned the party, or that it was at someone's house way out in Ridgeview. I didn't stop to wonder why a reunion wouldn't be at a bar or somewhere public, somewhere normal. I guess part of me thought, maybe this is just how people do things here. I didn't want to be difficult. I remember her texting me the address, and I didn't even look it up. Just saved it, said sure, and figured I'd deal with it when the time came. I can still picture her that night, smiling in that way people do when they're asking for something but trying not to seem like they are. I thought it was sweet, honestly. That's what gets me. It felt like such a small thing, saying yes, but it's the kind of small thing that changes everything. And now every time I think about that night, I wonder if I'd said no, if I'd trusted that little hesitation I had for half a second, would any of it have happened? The second we stepped through the door, it hit me. That feeling like I just walked into the wrong room at the wrong time. It wasn't loud or chaotic or anything like I'd imagined. It was quiet, too quiet, and everyone seemed to stop what they were doing when they saw me. For a second, I thought maybe I was just being awkward. Maybe I was reading too much into it, like I tend to do when I'm around people I don't know. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just nerves. But the way they looked at me, I can still see it. Not unfriendly, exactly, but not welcoming either. Like they were sizing me up, trying to place me, like I didn't fit the picture they'd been expecting. Their eyes lingered a little too long, and it wasn't that warm kind of curiosity you get when you're new. It was colder, more calculated. I remember feeling this strange mix of embarrassment and confusion, like I'd crashed something private without realizing it. I smiled, tried to look relaxed, tried to act like this wasn't bothering me. I remember shoving my hands in my pockets, trying to ground myself, trying to ignore the tightness in my chest. Zoe didn't seem to notice any of it, or maybe she did and just didn't care. And I hate that I didn't say anything, didn't ask to leave right then. I hate that I convinced myself it was fine, because deep down it didn't feel fine at all. I remember feeling like I had to get out of that room, not out of the house yet, just away from all those eyes. Every time I shifted or moved, it felt like someone was watching, tracking me. So I slipped down a hallway, hoping maybe I'd find somewhere quieter, somewhere I could just breathe for a second. The house was huge, and the farther I walked, the more it felt like I was stepping into a part of it I wasn't supposed to see. I didn't have a plan. I just kept moving because standing still felt worse. At the end of the hallway was this heavy door, darker wood than the rest. No decorations, no window. I didn't even think about it. My hand was already on the knob before I realized what I was doing. It didn't budge. I tried again, gently, like maybe it was just stuck. But it was locked and solid, like whatever was behind it wasn't meant for me. And then I heard it. Faint, so faint I thought I imagined it. Like voices, or movement, or maybe just the house settling. But I don't think it was. For a second I stood there, frozen. Every part of me wanted to turn around, but I couldn't. I stared at that door, trying to decide if I should knock, or call for Zoe, or just leave. And that's when it really hit me. I didn't want to know what was behind it. I didn't want to be any closer to it. I just wanted to pretend I hadn't tried the handle at all. Walking back toward the main room, I thought maybe I could just slip back in, act like nothing happened, blend into the background. But it felt different now. Heavier somehow. Like I'd done something wrong. Even though all I'd done was walk down a hallway and touch a door. The way they looked at me this time, it wasn't just curiosity. It was sharper. Like I'd crossed some line I didn't even know was there. Like I'd stepped out of place, and now they weren't sure what to do with me. People would glance at me, then at each other, and I swear conversations stopped when I got near. It felt like they were waiting for me to do something else, like I was part of some test I didn't know I'd agreed to. I kept telling myself I was imagining it, that I was being paranoid, but my skin crawled, and no matter how casual I tried to act, I felt exposed. Like every move I made was being clocked, noted, judged. I thought about finding Zoe, about saying we should leave, but my legs kept moving on autopilot, carrying me deeper into the room. I didn't want to make a scene, didn't want to seem weird, but the whole time I kept thinking, what the hell is this? What did I walk into? And I couldn't find an answer that made sense. I still can't. It's strange how some moments stick sharper than the rest. Everything else from that night feels kind of blurred at the edges, the faces, the sounds, even the house itself. But I remember him. This guy, maybe my age or a little younger, standing halfway down the stairs like he'd been waiting for me to pass. He didn't say much, or maybe he did, and I just can't remember the exact words now. What I do remember is his face. Serious, almost desperate, like he was trying to warn me without making it obvious. The way he looked at me, I felt it right in my gut. Like every doubt I'd been trying to ignore, every uneasy feeling, it all clicked in that second. His eyes said what I hadn't been able to admit to myself, that I shouldn't be there, that whatever this was, it wasn't right, and I was already in deeper than I realized. I didn't ask him anything. I didn't have to. I just knew, and the worst part, I hated that it took a stranger for me to see it. I hated that I'd been so busy trying to be polite, trying not to make things weird, that I ignored everything my gut was screaming at me. That moment, that look, it's the thing that finally broke through the fog. It's what made me stop trying to explain it all away. I don't even know how I kept my cool. My body felt like it was on autopilot, just focused on putting one foot in front of the other. Steady, controlled, like I was leaving on purpose, like I wasn't terrified. Inside, though, I was spiraling. I kept waiting for something, for someone to call out, to grab my arm, to block the door. Every second stretched out, like I was walking through water, like the house itself was holding its breath. I kept my head down, not too fast, not too slow. I told myself, over and over, just get to the door, just get to the car. My heart was pounding so loud I thought they could hear it. The silence felt worse than if someone had said something, like they were all watching, deciding whether to let me go. Every step down that walkway, every sound of gravel under my shoes felt like it echoed forever. When I got to my car, I didn't even look back. I unlocked it with shaky hands and got inside, locking the doors so fast it felt ridiculous, but I didn't care. Driving away felt like coming up for air after being underwater too long. But even then, even when I was blocks away, I kept checking the mirror, like I expected someone to be behind me. And the truth is, I still don't know what I escaped from that night. I just know I did. Later that night, when I finally got home, I thought maybe I could just shake it off. I tried. I really did. I sat there for a while, staring at my phone, telling myself to forget about it, to let it go. But I couldn't. My head was spinning, replaying everything. The looks, the house, that guy on the stairs, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to finish. And the longer I sat there, the more I felt like I had to know something, even if it didn't help. So I searched her number, the one she'd been texting me from. It felt stupid at first, like I was overreacting. But then the name that came up wasn't Zoe. It wasn't even close. The address where I'd picked her up both times, that wasn't hers either. And that's when the bottom dropped out. Like everything I thought I knew about the night wasn't real. She wasn't who she said she was, and I had no idea what that meant or why I'd been brought there. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My mind kept going back to that door, to the sound behind it, to the weight of it when I tried the knob. I kept wondering what I wasn't supposed to see, what I was never meant to find out. And I think that's what sticks with me the most. Not knowing, that feeling that I walked out of something without ever understanding what it really was. And maybe that's why it still haunts me.